They say Texas is the new California, but where's the Lone Star State's high-speed rail boondoggle? One of the keys to Jerry Brown's whole vision for California is, of course, the high-speed rail project. The same Jerry Brown who's sort of done his best to keep California from being pulled completely into the abyss is a Jerry Brown who says, you know, I'm going to take that cap and trade money. I wanted a third of it, Jerry Brown said. He got a quarter of it, and I'm going to spend it on high-speed rail, a project which, you know, hasn't been built out yet, is encountering a battery of lawsuits. Is encountering objections from environmentalists, from people who don't want to train. The emissions from the train won't even out until AB 32 is supposed to meet its goals in 2020. So there's a host of objections to high-speed rail, practical ones, ideological ones, and of course it's not going to get funded. It's got some money coming in, and some of it's been physically clawed away from other parts of the budget.
And you didn't even mention the biggest problem of all. Nobody's going to use it.
That's the kicker.
It's one of the the biggest white elephant transportation project possibly in American history, and that is saying a lot. There is no way the state that is so indebted, you know, with these hundreds of billions of dollars of unfunded liabilities, with big problems ahead fiscally, should be engaging in a project like this. And by the way, for 1/100th of the cost, you could build out highways and so on that would make your transportation congestion problems. You would alleviate those problems at a much lower cost.
Does it say something bigger about economic policy planning than just what's going on in California? That a guy like Jerry Brown, in spite of all of these problems with high-speed rail, which everyone acknowledges, that he's still pursuing this with as much vigor as he is?
He's a true believer. I mean, look, I know Jerry Brown. Some things I agree with him on, and some things I violently disagree with him on. This is one of those things I think he's just crazy. I mean, it's not even green. That's the point, because so few people are going to ride this high-speed rail system, that it's not even going to save energy. It's not going to reduce traffic congestion. The cost overruns are gigantic. The per passenger subsidy for the taxpayers is enormous. I mean, there's nothing to be said for this project. And I do believe that if it weren't for the fact that the federal government keeps, you know, promising money, there's no way Californians would build this themselves. At least I hope they wouldn't.
Well, there's still this idea among some folks in a particular corner of the ideological spectrum who think this is just the kind of thing that only government can do. Only government can sort of suck up the inefficiencies and build big and undertake this project that's going to take years and years any way you slice it.
It's going to be a gigantic waste of money. Look, the left loves trains. They love transit. They don't like cars, right? They hate cars. And, you know, I've always made the case the car is one of the most liberating inventions in the history of mankind. You can get in your car, go anywhere you want, whenever you want, without the government, you know, telling you when and where you can go. And even low-income people have cars, you know. So I think this is whereas with transit and trains, you go on a schedule, you go from point A to point B, and the government tells you where you're going. And of course, the left hates cars because they think they're big polluters, you know, so they want us to ride bicycles and get on trains.
Well, they also have an issue with the kinds of urban environments that you get when you have cities that are dominated by cars. And of course, you can point to Los Angeles, which people do. Joel Kotkin does this, and he says, like, look, this is sort of like a giant set of villages, and it's actually quite walkable in your neighborhood. But they like to brush those things aside, and they want to create a certain kind of city for people to live in a certain kind of way. Smaller, high-density housing and mixed developments. How do you engage with that corner of the debate about what an American city should look like in the future?
That's a great question.
In a way that brings us back to a free market approach to economics.
You know, look, I'm for the market deciding these things. In some places, in some cities, transit can work. By the way, you know, that doesn't necessarily even mean government transit. You could have transit systems that are run by the private sector for profit. I mean, one of the big things that's going on now is Uber, you know, where you just call up on the phone. And incidentally, one of the reasons a lot of these transit systems are so stupid, they're so 20th century, is that, my gosh, in 10 years everybody's going to have a Google car that just comes, picks you up, goes wherever you want. It'll reduce traffic congestion. You'll have far fewer cars on the road. It'll be incredibly efficient. So this is so backward looking. Trains? That's 20th century.
So do you really think that we're headed toward a driverless future with cars?
Yeah, I do. That's not to say everybody's going to have a driverless car, but I do think you're going to have a lot of them on the road. You're also going to have, because of the way these computer chips work, they're going to be much more efficient in terms of from going from A to B. It does it now, but it's going to be even more efficient. It's going to tell you exactly how to get from point A to point B, how to get around all the traffic congestion and so on. So it's going to be a much more efficient way. So cars, I think, as long as we build roads, this is the one area where I think infrastructure is being underfunded. We need more roads. We don't need more tax dollars for it. We just need to make sure our gas tax money goes for the roads and not stupid projects like high-speed rail.